If you grew up with childhood trauma, you might have ended up with a tendency to overshare, to tell people too much about yourself, even when you don't know them that well. And then you might regret it or feel shame or actually put your safety in jeopardy. And you may have noticed it's hard to change this. It just happens. But I want to tell you 9 things that whatever you do, just don't share these, all right? You can memorize these things or you can write them down, but it's important to know why we overshare, because this is where you can do some healing and then have choices about what you tell others. So let me first tell you why we do it, all right? Oversharing doesn't come out of being naive or stupid. It may feel that way, but that's you judging yourself. For people who have lived with trauma, it's often driven by a need to process our experiences by thinking out loud. Doesn't that make sense? Doesn't that help? Like, I just need to say this out loud. I'm getting kind of jammed up. Neglect and abuse make it harder to process thoughts and feelings. That can be like a lifelong condition until you heal. Experiences will continue to give you a stress response every time you think about them, long after they should have turned into memories. That's what unhealed trauma does. We're also sometimes seeking validation or trying to get a sense of control over something that feels very chaotic. So our ability to regulate emotions gets damaged by trauma, and we end up communicating in a way that's unfiltered or abrupt and impulsive. So sometimes we're feeling so much pain and anxiety, we're just grasping at straws, telling other people what's going on. We're losing our boundaries out of sheer need for a feeling that someone understands us. There's a lot of mental noise when you've lived through trauma. So it's natural to need to make sense of what's happened and what you're feeling. And it's an effort to feel better. That's where it's coming from. So no judging yourself. It's just, it's kind of a normal side effect, but it creates problems, right? The problem is that instinct to hand over every detail about yourself creates imbalance with other people. And it can lead to the perception that you're not trustworthy, that you're unstable. I hate that word. That you're needy, and, some people even find it annoying. So instead of building the connection we're seeking, it can push people away. But you know this. You know from the feeling of embarrassment after you ended up sharing more about yourself than you actually wanted to. And as you heal your trauma symptoms, this is going to get better. But in the meantime, this is why I want to teach you a temporary solution to avoid that. And you start by remembering what it is that you should never tell anyone, okay? Maybe you have people you can tell, but not people you don't know very well. Because, the idea isn't to just live in secrecy or pretend to be someone you're not. It's just that you need boundaries. You need to make artificial boundaries by giving yourself rules even before you have natural boundaries that give you an instinctive sense of what to share and what not to share. So boundaries are what protect your self-respect. They protect your safety and they protect your power in relationships. All right, ready? So the first thing is never tell mere acquaintances your private financial information. I know it seems obvious, right? Don't tell them though. If you're in debt, if you've got an inheritance, how much you earn, these things belong in your inner circle only. And for most people, even that circle doesn't need every detail. Why? Because it changes how they see you. If they know that you have money, they may start to see you as a resource instead of a friend. If they know you're struggling, they may see you as desperate or irresponsible. And sometimes people will use it to take advantage of you. This is, not everybody, but it could happen. Sometimes they'll judge you. Sometimes they will feel competitive with you. And sometimes they'll pressure you to make choices that don't serve you. So you don't owe anyone your financial vulnerability just to seem honest. Your money gets to be private. All right, the second thing not to tell, don't tell people every detail about your childhood trauma. Now, I teach about trauma for a living, and I share stories about my own life publicly. I do it in a very deliberate way. I don't detail my whole life story online or to strangers or even to casual friends, and neither should you. Most people don't have the tools or the compassion to handle those details. Once you tell them to, you can't take it back. So sometimes they'll pity you, sometimes they'll avoid you, and sometimes they'll use it against you later, judge you. You don't need that. And you don't need to be heard by everyone you meet, just so that you can heal from the past. It's a little bit part of our conditioning, especially if you're a woman like me. We're supposed to confide in each other very early, but you don't have to do that. I think you're going to find that your inner life is a lot more easier to keep regulated when you're a little bit more contained about that. There are appropriate people to tell, right? A therapist, a spouse you love, a close friend, you can tell these things to. Now, many people put too much emphasis on the past, on what happened and who hurt you. And it's not that it's not important, but it doesn't define you. And going over and over this doesn't serve you. Healing can begin when you understand what the signs are that trauma is affecting your life now. Now, that's my perspective. Healing is so much about what's happening now and what you can do to heal what the problem is right now, because this is what you can change about your life. If you want to see my list of the signs, that you're healing now, it's a free download. This piece is very close to my heart, and you can have it. I'll put a link to it in the top line of the description section below this video. Healing doesn't require spilling your whole story. It requires learning how to regulate, how to connect with people, and how to change self-defeating behaviors that are normal for traumatized people, but that can hold you back. So you get to build relationships based on who you are now, not the worst things that happened to you. You're allowed to keep those details private. Okay, the third thing, never tell people everything you think about them. Yeah, I have somebody in my life who keeps saying, I just need to be fully honest with you. And I'm like, no, you don't. Now, this one is tricky because honesty is important, but brutal, unfiltered honesty can be destructive. It can really hurt people in a way that's not necessary and that doesn't end up communicating anything to them because it breaks the relationship. If someone annoys you, or you don't like their outfit, or you're judging their life choices, those thoughts don't have to be spoken, especially when you're in the early healing process and you're still dysregulated a lot of the time. Many of us have not so good impulse control, so we blurt things out when we're thinking them. We may not be totally attuned to the situation, to the person, to ourselves, and so it can be sort of calibrated too high. It's coming out too hot. But part of emotional maturity and healing is knowing what to keep inside and what to say only when it helps the relationship. If you love someone, you don't need to tell them every passing negative thought you ever had. Choose your words for the purpose of strengthening connection, not tearing it down. The exception is if you're actually severing a relationship with somebody. But even in that situation, it's probably 10% of what your complaint is that needs to be communicated for them to get the idea of why this is happening. And if you possibly can, to be able to leave that relationship without tearing the other person apart. I know that's happened to you before. If you're trying to get out of an abusive situation, that's a different game plan. But if it's with somebody who was basically decent to you, don't tear them apart. If they need a reason, give them one little piece and let them go. All right. Fourth, don't tell people your private passwords. Don't tell them your codes or access to your accounts. Now that should be obvious, but so many people who grow up with trauma confuse intimacy with enmeshment. You feel like giving someone access to everything so that it proves you trust them and love them. And you feel like if you don't, they'll accuse you of hiding something. Maybe somebody did that to you before. But real trust is not about giving away your keys. It's about both of you respecting each other's boundaries. And boundaries, as you get closer to somebody, you may begin to share more and more, but you can allow that to unfold very slowly. Slow is your friend, especially if you had trauma. Slow lets you learn, lets you perceive, lets you express yourself in a measured way, not rushing in, not forcing an attachment before it's time, before you actually know if this is somebody you should be attached to. So keep your digital and physical life private. That's not secrecy, that's wisdom. Fifth, don't tell people every mistake that you've made. There's a difference between being honest and being self-destructive. If you're on a date, you don't have to unload all your bad choices from the past 10 years. If you're interviewing for a job, you don't need to confess every failure you ever had. People form impressions quickly, and it's not lying to leave out details that don't serve you and are not important to know. You are not your mistakes. You're who you are becoming. So share what's useful, share what's necessary, but don't sabotage yourself by volunteering every bad thing you've ever done. Sixth, don't tell people private things other people told you. Gossip destroys trust. If someone confided in you, it's not your story to tell. And if you have a habit of talking about other people's private business, you're training everyone around you not to trust you with theirs. And if you want strong friendships, protect confidentiality like your life depends on it. When someone knows that you can keep their trust, that's the foundation of a lasting bond. Seventh, don't tell everyone your exact plans until they're solid. Isn't that weird? Like that one, I learned that one kind of later on. If you're working on something big, a career move, a creative project, even a personal goal, be careful who you share it with. Not everyone is going to support you, you know. Some people will discourage you. Some of them will project their problems on you about it, like, oh, you can't make money doing YouTube. You can't make a living doing that. Some people are going to sabotage you outright, and some will quietly resent your growth more than a few. When your life starts really expanding because you're healing, you're taking, steps towards fulfilling your life, some people are going to fall away. So this doesn't mean you never share your dreams, but you share them thoughtfully, wisely. Wait until your plans are strong enough to withstand other people's reactions to them. Share your plans with the people who have proven they can encourage you. People who encourage you that is like huge. Encouragement is medicine. Criticism is poison. But I'll say it again, encouragement is medicine. So look for the people who encourage you. Eighth, don't tell people every detail of your romantic relationship. Oversharing on fights, secrets, or intimacy details might feel like bonding with friends, but it undermines your partner and it undermines the bond you're trying to build. Now, it's okay to seek advice sometimes, especially if there's trouble, and certainly, once again, if we're talking about abuse, that is a different situation. But respect your relationship enough to keep most of it between you and your partner. Guard the privacy of your relationship like you would protect a little candle. It needs to be protected if it's going to grow brighter. Then finally, don't tell people things just to fill silence. I've done that. Silence is uncomfortable when you're dysregulated. So you ramble, you overshare, you tell strangers your life story. I know, but it feels weird afterwards, right? And it turns out that silence is powerful. You can still connect while being in quiet mode. When you learn to relax into it, you stop bleeding out your energy and you start to notice who actually wants to connect with you. The more comfortable you get with silence, the more peace you'll have in conversations, the more present you'll be, and the more respect you'll earn from others. So when I say that you should never tell everybody these 9 things, it's not about hiding yourself or pretending to be someone you're not. This is about protecting what's precious, your privacy, your dignity, your relationships, your goals. Not everybody needs access to the inner circle of your life. They haven't earned it yet, right? And anyway, confessing everything doesn't earn you love. It's a false sense of intimacy, even though it feels like closeness, to just like tell people something real soon. Real love and real friendships grow when you have boundaries, when you share wisely, and when you respect yourself enough to be wonderfully attuned to yourself, alive inside, attuned to the outside, and disclosing your past and your inner life gradually with the people who show you that they are worthy to know you. If you like this video, I've got one that you're going to love right here, and I'll see you very soon. A lot of people are afraid that if they focus on themselves, they'll be lonely or bored or useless or just too consumed with themselves. But when you avoid yourself like this, you lose all your power. And guess what? You become lonely and bored and unable to be useful to anyone.